The Mighty Ducks Gamechangers show has been heavily anticipated. This week, instead of Falcon and Winter Soldier, I had a rectangular table discussion with somebody making their podcast debut. We'll call this person the Linguist. Please enjoy the ensuing rectangular table discussion about the first two episodes of Mighty Ducks Gamechangers. What were your immediate reactions to the first two episodes?
I am kind of neutral. I didn't really know what to expect. I think nothing really will live up to the nostalgia of the originals. You know, you gotta admit, the originals are not that good, but, we love them, right? Because it's nostalgia. It just is what it is. This show is kind of predictable, but I think that's probably okay.
1, 2, and 3. I feel like they took random elements that they thought people liked from those, and they just kind of tried to vaguely sprinkle them into the first two episodes so far. Most notably was the fact that Evan is wearing a Minnesota Gophers sweatshirt at the first practice, just like how Charlie had a Minnesota Golden Gophers sweatshirt when he got boarded from behind in one of the first games. I mean, they copied word for word the "I hate hockey and I don't like kids" line.
Mm-hmm.
In the second episode where the mom brings out the beach balls, that was a blatant copy of one when they went to the North Stars game, and then in 2 they also had a beach ball practice in what's essentially the World Junior Championship. It's like the Disney version of the World Junior Championship.
I gotta wonder, what people, if people like it, if they haven't seen the originals, kids now who haven't seen it, because it feels like it's just an Easter egg hunt for fans who saw the movies to find these things, or maybe they want people to have these conversations of, oh, it's so dumb, they're just including that. It's kind of cool to see the things and find the things, but it's not that satisfying of a show to watch just yet.
Yeah, overall going in, I was really hoping that certain things would be different in this new one. Namely, the fact that the 1, 2, and 3 are riddled with all kinds of continuity errors. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be fixed at all in this new one. I have a whole list of things I noticed just in the first 2 episodes. The other thing that I was hoping would be that the hockey aspect of the show, or any, hockey action sequences, I was hoping would be more realistic, because they got a lot more technology now to make realistic hockey scenes, and I've been kind of disappointed with that too. There's a lot of unrealistic, exaggerated things that they are thinking it looks good from a filmmaker standpoint, but from somebody that has a background in hockey, it's kind of, irritating or just annoying, because it isn't necessarily something that would really happen. I have my own list of the continuity errors in my mind that I can say, or I have a few major ones. I'm curious if you noticed anything continuity-wise before I get into my list.
No, I wasn't really paying attention to that. I was more thinking about, just plot stuff, I guess.
The one thing I will say that I like is I do really like the Evan kid as a protagonist more so than the protagonist in this other show I watched recently called Zero Chill. The other thing that I really like about this show is how they have a little, flying V across the screen, and they have, a slightly different version of the...
Yeah.
I like that in the beginning.
I love the music. There's a lot of different variations of that, and so I do appreciate the soundtrack a lot of this one. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, I agree.
So the opening title sequence, I like that. That's a nice little touch. The other thing that I kind of like is the fact that they incorporated in the Hendrix hockey apparel Easter egg. They kind of renamed the Mighty Ducks Arena Hendrix Hockey Center or whatever. So I appreciated that. I mean, maybe they don't make hockey gear, but maybe they're still some sort of corporate sponsor, because there are Easter eggs of every equipment. I've seen the podcaster kid, I've seen him have true gloves, and then this leads me into one of the main continuity errors is when Evan first gets to the tryout, he's wearing a CCM bubble, and then like when he's watching the Sophie girl shoot golf balls off the cones, right after that, when they get into the scrimmage, he's all of a sudden wearing a Bauer bubble. So I'm kind of wondering what happened to that Bauer helmet, because that easily could have gone to one of the kids on the Don't Bothers team. The mom is like, well, I can't afford equipment, which I guess fair enough. I mean, they could have gone back to the well of having a law firm sponsor, but I guess at the same time, they did use the law firm as a sponsor because she used her connections with the law firm to get a hold of a city surplus and pay for the ice that way. So I guess I'm fine with that. And I mean, I guess they had to figure out a way for them to magically have perfectly fitting equipment. So it's a good thing that the whatever Mighty Ducks Lost and Found happened to have the perfect amount of perfect fitting gear for each kid. That was convenient, but at the same time, I mean, I guess they couldn't necessarily use the same workaround that they did in the first one.
It also seems that, like, the law firm is sponsoring the Mighty Ducks, because all those other moms, all her coworkers at the law firm, they have kids. Well, at least that one lady, she has a kid on the Mighty Ducks, and she seems to be favored at the firm anyway. So maybe the law firm was already officially sponsoring them.
I think the lady that has the kids, I think her kids are the goalie of the Mighty Ducks and then one of either the defensemen or forwards. And I think that lady that has twins on the Ducks, I think she's Alex's boss at the law firm.
I don't think she's her boss. I think she's a co-worker, but I think she just gets special treatment.
The other thing I kind of noticed that was a continuity error was the fact that he's got like orange tape a lot when he's holding his stick or like on his way to the rink or whatever. It seems like when they're playing, it seems like he had black tape. So I don't know. And he also, when he found his lucky stick, he wasn't using that in the game. So I don't know, like, did he give the lucky stick to somebody else or did they leave that in the Lost and Found? And also, like, the lucky stick was kind of a lower end stick than his current normal one, so.
If the lucky stick was from 2 years ago, though, wouldn't it be too short by now? Like, wouldn't he have grown a couple inches?
Sure, maybe, but at the same time, like, one of the other kids could have maybe used it. The podcaster kid, I noticed that he has true gloves in one of the first practices, and I don't think he had true gloves in the first game. The other kind of thing that bothered me a little bit about it was when they did the team awards immediately. I mean, I guess I get what she was going for, but they made this team in the name of inclusivity, and she only gave awards to 4 out of 6 of the team. She totally didn't give Coob or Lauren Gibby anything. That was kind of weird that not everybody on the team got a team award. As weird as it was that they were doing that right off the bat.
Yeah, okay, so I have some thoughts. If we're done with continuity, I have some thoughts on this Lauren Graham character. I was kind of wondering, who is the target audience of this show, right? Is it like adults like us who watched it when we were younger, adults like us and older, or is it like kids now? The story is less about hockey and more about, or less about the hockey itself, right? And more about like her story. And it kind of makes sense if it's like people my age and older who have kids, and so they're like relating to the momminess of it. Because I guess, if I'm being honest, I would probably be really similar to her if I was in her position. I don't think I would freak out at the coach, but I think I have maybe similar opinions about like children's hockey, and I think it's interesting to contrast that with you as someone who actually played the sport, you know, because I watched the youth hockey my whole life.
They're realistically portraying how it is pretty cutthroat, and the kids that make the NHL and ultimately go places in hockey, it's accurate that at this point they're usually in a very wealthy, well-to-do family that allows them to have opportunities in hockey that some kids just simply can't get because they're getting private coaching, private skating lessons, private skills coaching, and yeah, they're going to advance through the ranks because they're going to have all the elite level level gear, all the elite level attention, all the elite level dedication. It is pretty cutthroat. That kind of reminds me of another thing that was kind of annoying. I like Dylan Playfair's character. I think he plays the kind of youth coach type role pretty well. But the thing that was annoying was at the end of the first episode when they were watching the Jumbotron and the guy that was doing a voiceover of the little video, he's like, we got back checks and we got forechecks. Back checking and forechecking isn't a type of body check. I mean, I get that they were trying to portray, like, yeah, this is a full contact league. Like, this is, I'm guessing, the equivalent of Bantam. I don't know if it's the same as, I don't know if they're playing by USA hockey rules, but that's another thing is in the original Mighty Ducks, they were like 10, 11, 12, and Pee Wee where you could hit. Since those movies, they've changed the rules, so now you can't check until Bantam. So I'm guessing when they say 12 to 14 division, they're giving like a vague Bantam type age range, so that people aren't like, hey, like they shouldn't be checking.
Yeah, I thought they were Pee-wee. I didn't think they were old enough to be Bantam.
She made the joke when she was trying to get the ice time about, are they beer leaguers? How dare you, sir? They're 12. And it's like, yeah, because after school, usually like later on in the night, that's when all the beer leagues happen. So I guess I got that, but if they're, I don't think 12 is quite checking or quite Bantam age. And, I mean, it very well could be different in Minnesota. They might have different youth hockey rules than Michigan does. But I would imagine it's, for the most part, fairly similar. But I just thought it was kind of dumb that this Dylan Playfair's character is supposed to be this elitist hockey guy. Hockey's, like, the stereotypical hockey guy. And a lot of the stuff he's saying isn't actual, like, hockey-type terms. I would feel like a guy like that wouldn't allow a voiceover calling body checking the same thing as back checking and forechecking.
Is he in charge of the voiceover though? Does he get to pick what people are saying?
Well, I feel like he should have had a say in the final product of, because it's kind of his event. I mean, it's his team that's hosting it. I feel like they would try to like run that by him because it kind of reflects badly on him if the video that's supposed to kick off the whole season isn't really something that you would hear at a serious hockey institution.
Oh, fair.
The other thing that just reminded me was I liked the fact that the girl Maya was wearing an equestrian helmet. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the part that stuck with me, it was mostly the mom's whole rant because I think it is an interesting illustration of like why does it have to be so elite, right? Like I kind of disagree with elitism in general because I think I'm a fan of inclusivity just in general. But as someone who grew up watching youth hockey, why it should be for fun, right? Like, and I think that it isn't fair that you have to do all these extra camps, and they probably all aren't going to be in the NHL. And I think there are definitely some kids who stay a fan and, you know, keep their love of the game and want to play and want to keep going. But not everyone does, and honestly, like, if you're 12 years old and you have to get up at 6 a.m. practices and stuff, I think you're going to be burned out. And the way the parents act, it's more about the parents than it is about the kids, right? Like, it's not really going to be who's in, like, they're treating it as an extracurricular as for college applications. That's more how they're viewing it than they are for NHL as a career. Because even if you have a career in the NHL, you still need a degree. And even a lot of people in the NHL who played college hockey are still getting their degrees. And it also truly doesn't matter where you go to college. And so, like, I thought that was an interesting illustration of how the moms are, how the parents are, because it's more about them having their kid to show off than it is about the kid having fun. Yes, you need parents' guidance to be good. And yes, if you, like, it is important to do all this practice and all this extra stuff, get the skills that you need if you want to play in the NHL. But they're still kids, you know, and I think that's important to, like, I think that it shouldn't be this way. I don't know.
I think the show does do a good job of kind of depicting the hockey parent There are definitely parents that, I guess, try to instill their failed hopes and dreams on their kids, and you do kind of see that in youth sports. My rebuttal to the kind of like it should be fun, everybody should be included. That's why there's a difference between like house hockey, which everybody makes the team, and travel, where there's different tiers.
That's true.
I think the kids that were making the Mighty Ducks, like the Mighty Ducks essentially seems like a double A or triple A program. And those kind of programs, they can lead to bigger and better things. It's not necessarily the NHL, but I mean, yeah, a lot of the parents that are putting their kids through those programs have money, but it could also be a way for that kid to get a hockey scholarship somewhere. And if they don't even necessarily get a hockey scholarship, there are club hockey teams in college that will give an academic scholarship to get the player for the club program as a workaround, because club teams can't have athletic scholarships. They'll get an academic scholarship, which is no different, or at least a partial scholarship to help bring money and performance to the club team. At 12, the kids aren't necessarily thinking about that. And at the same time, though, yeah, everything should be fun for the sake of playing, but playing at an elite level and playing well and winning at an elite level and constantly challenging yourself and figuring out new ways to win, that is a lot of fun in its own thing. Yeah, I think they depicted that well, and I think you're kind of supposed to side with Alex's or Lauren Graham's character on that. Like, I think they're trying to come from a derogatory toward the stereotypical like youth hockey. I think they're being critical of the infrastructure of youth hockey, but that's definitely how it works, and it's worked like that a long time, and I don't really know if that's ever going to change. Based on the fact that the Dylan Playfair's character was like, you're good, but you're not good enough, I mean, that was kind of weird. But, like, at the same time, I mean, I don't think it was wrong. Like, I think you're supposed to feel bad for Evan. I don't think the coach was necessarily wrong, because he didn't show the dedication to play at that level. Like, when the parents were like, we didn't see you at any of the camps, I mean, unfortunately, I think his mom did him a disservice. Like, his mom probably wanted him to, like, his mom was constantly talking about eating all sorts of junk food and constantly, like, just chilling out, taking a break. Like, oh, it's okay, it was just summer vacation. But unfortunately, hockey is kind of a most of the year-round thing. And if you're not playing hockey, I mean, a lot of pros say that you should be playing at least some other sport. But it sounds like this kid mostly just like ate junk food and played video games and hung out inside. You're going to get passed over really quick. I mean, I know from experience, I kind of learned too late that you have to basically dedicate yourself to off-the-ice programs and clinics and constantly be trying to better yourself. Otherwise, you're going to get passed up. And so just based on the fact that he was a lot slower and wasn't prepared and didn't necessarily show the coach that he had the dedication that the rest of the team clearly had, I think he did deserve to be cut.
I don't disagree with that in general, but I think it's not really his dedication, it's the parents' dedication. And, like, that's the thing is, if she couldn't afford the camp or something like that, like that, then that's not his fault, you know? If like it's her a little bit like, okay, she missed the deadline to sign up, but all of these extra things cost money. So if a parent can force them to do it, you know, like it's more the parents' dedication than the kid's dedication, because the kid will just be forced to go. You know, the kid has to show up and be there, but it wasn't his decision to not go to the camp and not go to all the extra stuff. But at the same time, I guess back to like how they're portraying it, I think that the majority of an audience, even if it's an audience that likes hockey, I think the majority of people are not the elite few, right? So I guess it would be more relatable to more people to take the side of this mom than the moms who are in the club. But I think it's just disappointing that you do have to do all these extra things to be to maintain your club status, right? But that seems to be the case in so many things, especially in anywhere with capitalism, right? You gotta just, it's elite, but not fair, and so yeah, that's silly.
Survival of the fittest, baby.
But it's not, though. It's not even, because it's like privilege and then continuing the chain of more privilege.
In reality, like the show doesn't necessarily talk about it yet, but there are a lot of programs that try to make hockey more affordable so that kids that are really good that don't have necessarily the financial backing to be good or the connections, they have a little bit more of a chance, and it does balance out the playing field a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad that programs like that exist. Yeah, in Evan's case, it sounds like his mom has a decent amount of money. Like, it sounds like... Because, I mean, the gear he has is pretty decent. Like, he had a high-end helmet. His skates were fairly high-end. His stick was high-end. So, I mean, I think his mom has a decent amount of money. It's not necessarily her responsibility to afford gear for...
Well, but also keep in mind she's a single mom, so she still has half as much money as all the other kids, or most of the other kids on the team.
Yeah, and for all we know, I mean, we don't know, maybe the dad contributed to buying some of the gear. I mean, we don't really know a whole lot about the dad because the hot chocolate machine was on when she was giving the background for that. But yeah, I definitely agree that it was a little bit the mom's fault that he fell behind because she was very laid back, and I think he didn't know how to tell her, like, I need you to be less laid back, because I can tell that he does really love hockey, and they made it a point to show that he got the award for the most passion about hockey. And that's true, and I definitely think he deserves to play, but I think he's passionate about hockey only part-time. Like, I think he has other stuff that he vaguely likes to do that interferes with his hockey. So it sounds like a house program.
Is it normal for humans to like more than one thing?
No, that's not abnormal for humans to like multiple things. But if you want to go far in hockey, unfortunately, you pretty much have to be thinking about that year round, or at the very least playing a sport so that you develop other muscle groups. And yeah, I mean, at 12, it's not the end all be all. But like I was trying to say, it sounds like his mom was more aloof about it and didn't necessarily realize the kind of dedication that it takes. I mean, they exaggerated it. 12-year-olds don't necessarily have private sports psychologists and whatnot, but that is kind of a lot of that does play a factor in reality. The kids that go places, it's who has the most money, who has the most resources, who has, like, and it's kind of a little bit of knowing somebody too. Like, if you have connections and you have a way to get yourself noticed and then perform when you're getting noticed, that's how you get places. This show seems to be a little bit of a testament to some kids that aren't necessarily as privileged or don't necessarily have the same connections. They can unfortunately slip through the cracks when they might deserve to not slip through the cracks.
There's a relative who plays hockey who I think he was like a mite, maybe mini mite, and his dad bought him a fancy stick because he couldn't lift the puck. And so instead of like working on the skill to be able to do it with the stick that he had, his dad said, well, I was annoyed that he couldn't do it, so I bought him this expensive stick so he could do it. Like, that's the culture of this thing. But it's kind of unfortunate too that hockey just is more expensive, right? Because you need all the gear, you need to make the ice. Like, it's not like you can just find a round object and kick it around and call it soccer. But I think the arc of the show, I mean, I think that's the whole point, right? Is that they created their whole little separate team. I imagine they're going to come in first or second place at the end of the season, you know. I imagine something's going to happen to the kids on the Mighty Ducks. A couple of them might switch over to this team. I have another question, though. Is if they have only 6 kids on the team, that means they never get a break. That means they're all skating the whole time, right? Like, I saw that at a tournament in 2007 where we had about 6 kids on the team and we got mercied, like, in the first period.
Well, so in the very first game, the black kid, Sam, he was on the bench, and then they have 5 skaters and a goalie. So yeah, they have 6 skaters, and I kind of already know that the Sophie girl, I know that she's going to join. You kind of brought up something that led me to a different point that I wanted to make. I think that this show, it draws to me a lot of parallels with the movie Kicking and Screaming, and I also think it draws a lot of parallels with the show Glee. In Glee, it was basically like if they didn't qualify at sectionals, they were going to get the program ended or whatever. So I think it's going to have a similar type arc. I think that everybody's expecting them to suck at first, just like the Mighty Ducks, and then eventually in a similar parallel to Kicking and Screaming, where Will Ferrell's character moved his son over to a different team that wasn't as elite, but it gave his son a chance to play a lot. That's pretty much exactly what this is, where Lauren Graham moved her son into her own team where he's going to be able to be the star and play all the time. But, and similar to Glee, I think that when it comes down to it, I think they're going to lose because that would allow them to do more seasons worth of them doing stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
At the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if they make them win. I don't know how many episodes each season is going to be, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did make them win. But at the same time, I was kind of predicting that they were going to have a similar type arc to Glee where you think they're right about to win, but then the New Directions lost to Vocal Adrenaline. And then I think that when it comes down to it, they're going to come up just short. That way you have to tune in for the next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an underdog story either way, but I guess it'll depend at the end if there is another season, which direction they're going to go.
The other obvious parallel to Kicking and Screaming is that I'm pretty sure that this is heading in the direction where Gordon is going to join the coaching staff, just like how in Kicking and Screaming, Mike Ditka joined Will Ferrell's coaching staff as an assistant coach. I think it's going to become like that, and I don't know if they're going to take it even further where Lauren Graham's character is going to become the very thing that she's so against. I have a feeling that she might become very dedicated to winning and win at all costs, just like Will Ferrell's character did. That wouldn't surprise me either. That would add a certain element of drama, and that's a common archetype where people become the very thing they swore never to be. I think that's coming. I think they're going to suck for a while. I hope that next episode we get kind of a flashback where we explain why Gordon is all of a sudden so jaded again. I don't know if next episode is necessarily going to even focus on the current Don't Bothers at all. I think it might give a whole episode explaining what happened to Gordon in the time since, I guess, 1996 through 2021 or 20, whatever year it is in the show. I'm wondering why he's all of a sudden so jaded. Obviously, it made him come full circle and then back again because he started as an alcoholic lawyer that hated hockey because probably partially because it was so elitist, but also because he was upset about his dad passing. And so then he accidentally flukes into the Ducks and he re-sparks his passion. But then, I don't know, he got some gig working for the World Junior Championship, recruiting for Team USA or whatever. It seems like he hasn't gone back to alcohol or whatever like he was in the first one, which is good news, and also probably more kid-friendly for like modern kids. But at the same time, I mean, he also seems to be, his eating habits aren't the best. Like, all I've seen him eat is cake and pizza so far. It sounds like he's kind of gone back into some of his old bad habits. And I mean, at the end, it kind of teased that he reinvigorated his, I'm guessing he's going to join the coaching staff at some point because it's not a Mighty Ducks thing without a Gordon Bombay hockey training montage. And also just like, that seemed like a tease. But I want to know how he got to this point. I want to know how he got so jaded and upset again.
Maybe that other dude died. The other dude, the brother of the dude who runs the hockey store.
Because Hans had a heart attack in the third one. Are you talking about Jan?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's been 20 years. Maybe he had a fight with Charlie.
That's another thing.
I so hope there's cameos from the original cast. I mean, Keenan is doing his own TV show. Maybe he's open to doing the Disney.
That was another thing I kind of wanted to talk about was obviously they're trying to make thinly veiled attempts at portraying like prior characters. Obviously Evan is basically Charlie.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention that my favorite character, other than the podcaster guy for obvious reasons, I like him. He's kind of an honorable mention. But the black kid Sam, I really like him. And it was obvious that he was going to join the team the second I saw him slam into the vending machine and he said,
Oh, yeah.
anytime you get dared, you have to do it. I knew, I was like, well, yeah, so he's just going to tell him, I dare you to join. So
Right now. He's a mix of, obviously, Luis, but also I think he's a mix of Luis and Fulton. I think, even though Podcaster Dude looks like Carp, he's Averman. Goalie is still Goldberg.
Maya, I think she's probably Connie. I was almost kind of thinking that the Lauren Gibby was Averman.
Oh.
But I'm guessing the Adam Banks is going to be the Sophie girl, because she's going to be the one that comes in from the elite team.
Yeah. Because Adam Banks, you'd think, because if Adam Banks is Cake Eater, then that dude from Canada, he would be Adam Banks, but he sucks, so then he can't be Adam Banks.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think he's Fulton, because he can't skate, just like Fulton couldn't skate.
Maybe. But personality-wise, I don't think so.
But I think they're setting up that Lauren Gibby character to be like a secret weapon type thing.
Wait, which one's Lauren Gibby?
She's the one that dresses like a warrior princess and had like the boomerang stick.
And who's the other girl?
Maya was the one that, like, my secret talent is finding vague things to upset people, and so your vest is so 2017, and, like, so I would just say things from 2017.
Okay.
She reminds me of Connie because she's, like, the hot girl, and that was Connie's main thing, was she was kind of the hot girl on the team. I don't know who Guy Germain would be. I mean, I think Maya is supposed to be, like, the cute girl. I mean, I'm sure there will be plenty of Lauren Gibby fans too, and I'm not saying like it's like she can't be the hot girl too, but like I think Maya is supposed to symbolize the stereotypical popular hot girl, and like that kind of seemed like.
I didn't think of that in the original one.
Well, because in the original one they had Connie and then Tammy Duncan joined the team late, so like maybe Lauren Gibby is Tammy Duncan.
I think it's more a personality thing. I don't think it has to be like, oh, girl, like that. So that's what makes them the same. I think it's.
I mean, that's another thing that they kind of copied from Glee is they kind of did every stereotype per kid, which also reminds me of another continuity error I just thought of. He supposedly was airdropping a message about the team, but all the texts were in green. Airdrop is an iPhone function, so that is kind of a lazy. Probably not a lot of people noticed that either, but that was something that was kind of annoying.
I don't use an iPhone, so I don't know what message colors mean.
An airdrop should be blue, but it wasn't. And I don't think you can airdrop to an Android. I think airdrop is a specifically iPhone to iPhone function.
Oh, that makes sense.
In the grand scheme of the show, it doesn't matter too much, but it's just kind of a minor gripe, continuity-wise, among several other things. The other thing that I kind of noticed was I didn't like that the Hawks kind of rebranded. They have, like, Oilers colors now, and they didn't keep a lot of the same names from the first Mighty Ducks. I think there was a Bears in the first one. There was obviously a Cardinals, and there was a Hawks, and obviously there was a Ducks, but I don't think they had a Flames or a Jets or a Hornets.
Oh, I didn't even think about that they all just have random animals. But it makes sense that they would change a lot of teams. Like, not all teams had a legacy. Obviously, Mighty Ducks have the biggest legacy going to the Junior Olympics or whatever their second year after winning one Pee Wee hockey game. But, like, it makes sense that teams would shift around.
So as far as the hockey, that's something I kind of brought up earlier. I'm not a fan of it so far. I mean, there's a lot of instances in the game against the Cardinals where the Cardinals should have gotten minor penalties. I get that it looks kind of funny or whatever on camera to have the podcaster kid stand there in fear, but two guys basically smoked him in open ice nowhere near the puck. That would have been an interference at worst, or at best that would have been an interference. At minimum, it should have been on both of them. So there was a lot of instances where there was blatant interference. And then, I mean, this kind of plays just because the Koob, whatever, he's not a great goalie, but all the shots were, like, low. So, I mean, I guess maybe they were just kind of trying to be fancy and not trying because it was easy to score. But I noticed that all the Cardinals' shots were low backhands on the ice.
Maybe they also had a stunt double, so they didn't want to show his face.
The other thing that I wanted to make mention of that I thought was sweet was when Sam tried to grind the dasher. That was awesome. When he's like, I wanted to see if I could grind the boards. So he jumped up and tried to parkour the glass.
Oh, right.
That was probably my favorite part of the whole show. I thought that was sweet.
Even though it's a hockey show, it's like, it's for the drama. It's like One Tree Hill, but instead of being about basketball, it's being about hockey.
Yeah.
I don't remember One Tree Hill. I watched it 20 years ago.
Well, so I guess to kind of wrap up, do you have a favorite character overall? And I guess what are your predictions for, I guess, the next episode?
I think my favorite character is probably going to be Bombay. I don't like him yet, but I probably will because I think we're supposed to. I liked your thought about making an episode mostly about him. I didn't think about that, but I think that would be cool. I kind of hope the show surprises us a little bit. Just because looking at it right now, it seems very predictable. Like, there's maybe two directions it could go, and I hope that it can be surprising a little bit, but not in a Marvel way that's, like, out of nowhere and dumb. Gosh, it's owned by the same people, though. Yeah, I think they're probably going to win a game, like, in episode 4, and so I hope that more interesting things happen along the way.
I had a similar thought where I was like, I hope this isn't like Disney Star Wars where they just slap Star Wars on it and then deal with it. They're like, we'll just put Star Wars on it and then we'll deal with it later and we'll kind of wing it. I hope they're not just like, yeah, we're going to call this Mighty Ducks and then we can just do whatever we want because people will like it regardless. That is a legitimate fear I have. Overall, I don't hate the show. I mean, I have a lot of gripes with it, but I'm also... It's kind of like you said, nothing is really ever going to measure up to the original 3. Overall, so far, I mean, I could have done without the show. I could have just kept with the same original 3 because some of the stuff I was hoping would be different hasn't been so far. And like you said, it has been extremely predictable. I wouldn't be surprised if it plays out exactly how I thought. But at the same time, I'm obviously going to keep watching, so... If their plan was just to slap Mighty Ducks on it and go from there, it's working.
Yeah, I think it's not bad enough to not watch. And even if it is completely predictable, then that means we will all get the satisfaction of having predicted it perfectly.
The last thing that we both kind of forgot to mention was that we both have a vested interest in what became of the relationship between Charlie Conway and that girl Linda. And also we're kind of curious what ended up happening with Luis Mendoza and that varsity cheerleader. We're both curious if this show will give some kind of resolution to that. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Tune in next week. My other special guest will be back. We'll be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes 3 and 4. I figured it'd be better to just do 2 episodes at a time. I'm also going to have some hockey content coming up later this week, so stay tuned for that. We'll catch you in the next one.